All right, let's go ahead and get started here as coaches trickle in. I'd like to introduce my co-host here with over 4 decades in the game, an assistant for 2 national championship teams, immensely successful as an assistant and also a head coach, leading UC Irvine to their only NCAA tournament appearance in 1995. She coached USA basketball, professional basketball with the Sparks, and worked in administration at UCLA as assistant athletic director. She served also as the Secretariat for Competition for women's basketball for the 1984 Olympics. And my favorite accomplishment, she was the technical advisor and consultant for the classic film Love and Basketball, Colleen Matsuhara. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Matthew. I always enjoy seeing the group that people, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the new ones on our Growth Mindset Zoom. And to start off with, some of you, please don't get bored, but I always like to define, especially for the newcomers, what we're talking about when you have a growth mindset personality or way of learning. And a growth mindset is a belief that intelligence can be developed, that the brain is like a muscle that can be trained and you learn things. It leads to a desire to improve by embracing challenges, not avoiding them. You get your success by approaching challenges with a growth mindset and not just your abilities and talents. Whereas if you have a fixed mindset, that's when people believe their basic qualities like their intelligence or talent are simply fixed traits that they are born with. And they spend their time documenting their intelligence or talent instead of developing them. And so if you want to get better at growth mindset, you can work on things like acknowledge and embrace your imperfections. You view challenges as opportunities. You try different learning tactics. I like this one. You replace the word failing with the word learning. And you're going to value the process over the end result. So stop seeking approval and cultivate a sense of purpose in all of your actions. And not only in your coaching methods, but also try to encourage a growth mindset with your players. And that being said, I want to now tell you about, expand your mind about I always talk about my snack tips and my music tips. So today, my first snack tips. Now look, if you don't know me, I'm not crazy, okay? But I'm a big snacker, so I like to sort of lighten things up at the beginning here. My first snack is from Trader Joe's. It's creamy cookie butter cookies. And it's creamy cookie butter spread between two decadent butter cookies, okay? And this is what it looks like. It's like a sandwich cream. It's really rich. It's great with coffee. And they also have a spread that's in a jar like peanut butter. So you could get those, spread them on bread, have like a cookie butter sandwich or dip them in crackers, okay? So that's snack number one. Snack number two, because I just bought it this morning and we're talking about butter. So there's a place here in town where I live in Sacramento. It's called the Natural Foods Co-op. It's a great store. And today I bought Co-op house-made vegan biscuits. So as you can see, they're nice and flaky. So I just cut them in half, butter them up, stick them in the microwave, nuke it, and it's a little bit of heaven. Okay, so today I'm on my butter kick. Other days, I'm on my candy kick. Okay, that's my two snack tips. Now for my two music tips. And I'm gonna try and play a few cuts here. I'm getting a little fancy here. Now, my first CD is, it's called Fred Hammond Presents. Fred Hammond is a gospel singer. And the title of this CD is called In Case You Missed It, and Then Some. I'm gonna just give you a little sample here. The first cut I'm picked is called Let Me Tell It. We'll be putting our hands together for you, Kamie, at the end here. Track number 14 is here, is called My Heart Depends on You by Shane Norman. Okay, then my second CD is a very familiar face, I'm sure, to most of you. It's old school. It's Carly Simon's Greatest Hits. The name of this CD is Reflections. And there are some songs that I'm playing because you're all coach. Okay, that's my music tip for the today and my snack tips. But now I'd like to tell you my last portion that I do is a women's basketball history. Today, because our speaker is Kamie Ethridge, I want to focus on the Lady Longhorn team that won the national championship. As I said in a previous Zoom, in 1982, the NCAA sponsored the very first national championship, and that was won by Louisiana Tech over Cheney State. Then the next 2 years, in 83 and 84, the USC Trojans won back-to-back NCAA titles. In 1985, the University of Texas in Austin was the host for the Final Four. In those days, host schools hosted the Final Four. And so there was a lot of pressure on the Texas team to, qualify and make it back to Austin to play in the Final Four. However, in a regional final, Western Kentucky, a last second bucket by Lily Mason defeated them 92-90. So that was, of course, a very long trip home to have to sit there in your home arena and watch 4 other schools compete for the national championship. That year is won by Old Dominion. So in 1986, the Texas team, I was privileged. I was an assistant coach on that staff. We went through the season, the Southwest Conference at that time, which was a precursor for the Big 12. We went through the conference season undefeated, and then the regional first and second rounds, and the regional tournament, the final game of the regional tournament to qualify and advance to the Final Four was played in Austin, and we defeated Ole Miss, which was coached by Van Chancellor and their All-American Jennifer Gillum. And we won by 3 points, 66-63. That was the closest game we had all year, but it felt like 2 heavyweights just slugging it out for 15 rounds. That was, it was a lot of mental and the crowd pressure just to advance to the Final Four. So it was in Lexington, Kentucky. The semifinals, of all people that we ran into, was Western Kentucky, who eliminated Texas the year before. And we beat them in the semifinals. The other semifinals was USC defeating Tennessee. So the game for the national championship was what people determined to be the best team, which was Texas, against the best player, which was Cheryl Miller. Now, they called us the best team because we were 10 deep. A lot of people jokingly used to say, well, Texas has got the #1 and the #2 ranked team in the country because our bench was so deep. We went on to beat the women of Troy 97-81 to become the very first NCAA undefeated champion. I mean, after that, UConn has had a string and Baylor, but Cheryl Miller in her final game as a collegian only shot 2 for 11 from the floor. She did make 12 free throws, but she had no points in the second half. The best scorer for USC that game was Cynthia Coop came off the bench to score 27 points. And we had a freshman, Clarissa Davis Reitzel, who came off the bench, scored 25, and was also the most outstanding player. Lastly, on that year's squad at Texas, let me just tell you a couple of the accolades of the players. First of all, there's Kamie, our co-captain point guard, who willed our team to victory. I just felt like she put the team on her back and willed us to win that championship. She was an All-American in 85, 86. In 86, she also won the Honda Award, the Wade Trophy, and the Francis Pomeroy Naismith Award. So she had to get a new truck to haul away all her hardware. Then also on the team was senior Annette Smith, who at 5'11" was determined to be the littlest center in the country, but she was an All-American in 84. Starting forward was Andrea Lloyd, who was an All-American in 87. And Beverly Williams was the off guard who became an All-American in 88. Clarissa Davis, of course, was an All-American in 87 and 89, and she won the Naismith in 1987. So we had quite a bit of talent, but, I think it was just a matter of having the right chemistry. And I want to say that, Kamie, that you're one of my favorite players I ever had the privilege to coach, because you led your team by example. She was the most competitive player I've ever known. When coach would say, get a water break, she would sprint over to the water cooler and she'd want to be first in line to get some water. So with that, I toss the ball to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Colleen. I love hearing the old stories, and man, you guys have such a connection, and it's such a treat to have you both on today. Coach Ethridge, I'm gonna celebrate you a little bit. I'm gonna give you an intro because you never know how many of these you're going to get. So I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. But Kamie Ethridge was the first female athlete to have her jersey retired, number 33, at the University of Texas. She was a starting point guard for the undefeated 1986 national championship team, the first undefeated team to win the national championship. Two-time Kodak All-American. In 1986, like Colleen mentioned, the Francis Pomeroy Naismith Award winner, Honda Sports Award winner, Honda Broderick Cup winner, Wade Trophy winner, of course. You represented the USA in international competition, winning multiple gold medals, including the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, the 2000 inductee into the Texas Women's Athletic Hall of Honor, and in 2002 inductee into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. That's all your playing accolades. I'm going to give you some coaching accolades here because I think you are such an outstanding coach. You started off your career as a grad assistant with Texas and Northern Illinois before becoming promoted to assistant coach at Northern Illinois. You went on to serve on the Vanderbilt staff, where you went to a Final Four in 1993. You then were hired at Kansas State as an assistant and then associate head coach, I believe under Deb Patterson. You were then hired at Northern Colorado as your first head coaching job, where you did just a phenomenal job, going 83-44 in 4 years. That's a 654 winning percentage. Took them to the WNIT in your first year, and then the school's first ever Division I NCAA tournament in your final season. You're the 2018 Big Sky Coach of the Year, and then of course you got picked up by Washington State, as all the great ones do. They get plucked up to the tough conferences, the Pac-12, and you've done just a phenomenal job. In the 2021 season, this past season, you had lost two seniors, two all Pac-12 seniors, Bobby Buckets Hirostova and Chanel Molina, and you were unanimously picked to be 12th in the Pac-12. And you went on to 9 conference wins, especially with wins over number 21 Oregon State, number 7 Arizona, and of course number 5 UCLA. I'm still bitter about that one. You were ranked in the AP polls for the first time in school history at number 25, and you earned the second NCAA tournament bid in school history, and the first in 30 years. You had my vote as coach of the year. You guys did such an outstanding job. Unfortunately, Tara Vanderveer also happens to be in the conference, and but Coach, I just appreciate so much you sharing today and coming on, and I just wanted to celebrate you and embarrass you a little bit before we ask you some questions. So thanks, Coach Ethridge, for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's really nice. It is a little sickening to listen to all of that, and I do recognize a few older people on, and some of you guys do remember some of those things, but a lot of you are way too young. And but it's probably good for you to listen to some of the history of our game. And it's hard to believe that I'm the old timer now, but I am, and I take that on, and I'll take that mantle. But appreciate being here, love it. Anything I can do to help people, I want us to be able to do.
And that's exactly why I wanted to really connect us with the past and give you that embarrassing introduction, so that some of the newer coaches and people that didn't have the opportunity to connect and watch those teams in the 80s really understand where you come from and what you're all about. So I'm glad we were able to do that, and Colleen really connecting us with some of the history there of your team. That was just fabulous. But Coach, just to start us off, I did do a little research on, and you actually turned me on to some of the clips of your playing days from your retirement ceremony, and I do have those. We can watch those. But it struck me, your creativity on the floor, some of your passes. Obviously, Colleen still talks about the pass behind the back and or around your side, but it struck me that you have two players in the Ledger Walker sisters that are kind of similar. I mean, they make passes that you just don't teach. you know, that they're creative. And I wanted to ask you, what do you do to foster that creativity? And did they arrive in Pullman already with that creativity, or is that something that you kind of foster and encourage?
Yeah, yeah. I do think that was something I was born with. I mean, I don't know that passing is always a taught talent. I think I had instincts to do that. And I think those two kids really do as well. Crystal Ledger Walker, the older sister, was a mid-major kid all from the very beginning. And obviously we got onto her, you know, late in the process and was able to, but her only options were kind of mid-majors, UTEP being the highest, and they backed out at the last minute, and we got a visit and we got her. And she honestly was probably, can I just stop real quick here? Because I'm going to ask Laurie Koehn to jump on a bazillion times probably tonight, my associate head coach and someone that played for us at K-State. And it was a tremendous player. And I think the best assistant coach in the country. So she's my right-hand person and someone I depend on completely. So she's going to be on here and I'll talk about her probably a lot. But you know, Laurie does a lot of our recruiting and certainly got on to Crystal but Crystal was at least 10 pounds heavier. You know, right now she's got a lot of fitness to her and she's really got a great motor. She did not have that when we got her. She was a kind of a lazy kid and a lazy streak. And we really, you know, 5 years later, she's kind of turned herself into a really high level guard. She was wild with the ball, like too wild. Like I wish I had a picture. I wish I had a pass that she made that no one in the gym expected, and certainly the kid that it hit on the head didn't expect, that she tried to make in a game. So wild. And I don't ever remember, Colleen might say different, that I was wild with passes.
No,
But she really, I think she's different than Charlize. You have to tame her in. You have to kind of put some parameters on her. You know, she tries to do too much, and that's the hard part with good players, you know, that try to do too much with their passing or shooting or dribbling or whatever decision making. But clearly, you know, 4 or 5 years later in her development, she's really turned herself into a tremendous leader, tremendous motor for us, much smarter and decisive and game smart and keeps people, like a calming effect on the court. You know, she's a real calming effect for others. And her sister is just, as a freshman, you know, she just walked in the door with poise and talent and, you know, above average, way above average, high IQ. And there's not much that she can't do. So you just have to put her in position to make plays. But again, she's another level of calming effect as well on the court, more so than Crystal. Crystal's the fire, and Charlize is the ice, and they're a good combination.
Well, you know what I'd like to do, because I know not all the coaches on here live and breathe in the Pac-12 like we do and watch every clip. So I've got a few clips that I'd like to show, if you don't mind, of your two stud players, and I'll preface it with a few clips of you so that we can kind of compare and contrast. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then it'll only take 2 minutes or something. So here we go.
is the pass in there, Matthew?
Yes. It's from the retirement ceremony. So
Okay.
So here we go. So let's go like this.
So everyone, you're going to see a pass by Kamie that I've never seen again. I've never seen it done again.
Never seen those socks and hair either, right?
That's the pass. She wound it
Everybody
around.
see that? Let's just do that one more time.
She's going to take it and go.
That's amazing.
And And Clarissa caught it and made a basket. Thank goodness.
So that is Coach Kamie Ethridge there. Now let me get out of that. And here are the Ledger Walker sisters. And let's see if we can see some similarities. This is straight from our scout film, so. So there's just a few clips that we had in our scout film, but you can tell those your sisters, the creativity that they play with. You saw some of those passes that looked eerily similar. Just how much do y'all let them play in practice? You know, like let them go 5-on-5. There's been a lot of discussion. We had Chris Oliver on a few sessions ago, and he's a big proponent of letting the players play and figure out solutions. So just out of curiosity, with your program, how much 5-on-5 say are they getting in a typical practice?
I think that's just the debate of all time, isn't it? We do some three-sided shooting that gets everybody a shot. We call I don't know what people call it, whether it's the flow or this, we call it a sandwich. The third side is a sandwich, and we do third side sandwich shooting. We do a third side, so sandwich shooting or third side shooting, and there's actions off of those. But right after we generally do that, we'll put in defense. So we might do 3 minutes of everybody getting shots on that, and then we might just do 3-on-3, sandwich shooting. So you got to be more, in order to score, you got to be more aggressive. You can't, you don't have the other side of the floor. You got to really hunt for your shot and try to get shots and make people pay. But I do think we've tended to go to the direction of, more times than not, we do things with defense. We do things 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. We do things with defense, other than just trying to get, more shots for our kids in certain shooting actions. But I do think that's really crucial for kids to understand and read and make plays off of that.
And so in those drills, you're coaching both offense and defense.
Yeah. I think defensively, we let our kids make reads on those, whether, some of those actions happen really fast, and, our kids generally, we do a lot of icing, we down screens on the wing. So, we've got to learn how to play off of that. Sometimes we know that that's our tendency to do a lot of that. So we'll tell them, you can't do that, just to get our kids to read or to understand. If they go under, we're going to rescreen it, and we're going to come back and maybe get a shot, or we're going to play a clear side, pick and roll type situation. But yes, the more live you can make that without giving them direction, I think makes our kids make reads.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you guys, your players in your screen and roll actions, just great reads. It's some of the hardest stuff to defend. Just kudos to how you guys teach that. I think
I think it's just anything, we would probably argue that, that we're not good enough. But I think the thing that gets us, and probably most people on here, I don't think we're any different than most. If you can't shoot it when people go under screens, and if you can't make shots behind screens, you're really in trouble. And I think, most of us struggle with not putting enough shooters on the floor that can make people pay based on how they guard. And I think that's still us. We just don't have enough people that stretch the defense and allow, people can pack the lane and make shots hard for your best players.
That kind of brings me to a question that I had that I wanted to ask you. When you were starting out at Washington State, I know you had talked about one of your favorite ways to play was stretching the floor with your bigs, having shooters everywhere. And in the team that you had this year, you had Bella and you had Ula that were not really knockdown shooters. What was the point where you kind of adjusted? Was it you found a player that you like, so you adjusted your offense, or was it you adjusted your offense and then found the players? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we're good enough coaches to figure out how to space the floor when you have 3 bad shooters. I wish if someone has an offense for that, then let me know. But we struggle with that. We struggle with I can go back and look at my second and third year at Northern Colorado, and it was the same thing. We put in a system that people don't totally know it yet. They're not comfortable with it. They don't move from one action to the next and make defense continue to kind of catch up. Our offense gets over, early in getting your system in place. I think the ball sticks and defense can catch up, and you're back to 5-on-5 again. When we were at our best this year in year 3 of our program, the ball moves, and you have to trust it. You have to keep it moving. And I think that's the hardest part. A year ago, we had Bobby Buckets, who could really create anytime she wanted. Chanel. We could run some of the best offense in practice, and the ball moved, and they would move it, and they would trust it, and they would trust it. And then they'd get in games, and they would hold it, and they would dribble it. And they just thought they had to make the plays. And I just think that's the tendency of what happens with really good players. It's hard to get great players to give the ball up and to trust that it might come back to them, and keep the ball moving and continue to have an advantage. And I think we do a good job of spacing the floor, but we're not quite there yet in trusting how to keep it moving and create shots, the best shots that we can for our best players. But along with that, Matt, I just think it's, Ula's got to become she's got to become a knockdown 3-point shooter. We can't, Charlize Ledger-Walker, if she were a 40% 3-point shooter, she would have been in the short list of Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers and Charlize, but she's a 30%. So if her 3-point shooting can come along, then she becomes almost unguardable. So it's a little bit of, I think the biggest thing that I would say, and I think probably most people on this call, UCLA maybe being the exception. We generally we can't get the player that doesn't have any holes in their game. If we go against most Pac-12 schools, we're not gonna get a kid. We generally are recruiting against some of the best mid-majors. We have to find kids that maybe others don't know about that we think will really potentially get better, but they're generally not there yet. And so we got to do a great job of growing their game and getting them to that point. And Bella being an example, our 5 player, just a raw. I hope we've seen the worst of her, and I think she's pretty good, but 2 years of her just being inconsistent, hopefully those worst years are behind her and she's going to build on that. But that's generally what we have to get. And then we got to grow them into players that don't have big holes in their game. But I do think that's the hard part in mid-majors have to do that. And the great coaches can make that happen. And I think for us still at Washington State, we're still having to do a little bit of that in recruiting.
Now, you've really made a mark in your international recruiting there at Washington State. When you were taking over the program, was it at the forefront of your idea on how to compete? Was it at the forefront that you were going to go out and recruit internationally? Or was that something that kind of evolved as you got there? Because you have to kind of have a game plan if you're stepping into the Pac-12. How are we going to compete in Pullman for a Pac-12 title, right?
Yeah, I didn't know a lot of things. There's a lot of things I didn't know when I took the job. We've never recruited Serbia. We had a Serbian on our team. We'd never recruited Portugal. There was a Portugal already on our team. There was a kid from France that we hadn't recruited. There was a kid from Laurie, help me out.
Bulgaria.
We brought in a New Zealand kid, Australian, and we did sign an Israeli, late in signing. And again, we signed 4 kids that probably weren't Pac-12 level good enough, but we got the job in May and had 7 players on our roster. So we had to get some bodies and good kids and good culture kids into our program. So we've added, besides the Israeli, we've basically just added New Zealand, Canadian, and Australian. And I don't look at them very much international, at least they speak English and there's not much of a translation factor there. So I don't really look at us as real hardcore international, especially where we are right now, but we have made some inroads obviously in those countries. But I do think there is a niche there. I think you've got to, the international kid still doesn't quite know levels, power conferences versus mid-major. So if you can build a relationship well in the international world, I think you have a chance to snag a player that might be better than, certain places. I think we did that at Northern, and clearly we're still trying to do that here.
And I also wanted to compliment you on your recruiting junior college. You got a starter this year, Johanna, from junior college, right? And she won a couple games for you, if I'm not mistaken. She was great.
Estonia. She's from Estonia, yeah, but came from and same with Bella. Bella's from Rwanda. I don't think Rwanda would be a place anyone could recruit, but she was here 5 years prior to getting to us. So Johanna is a kid from Estonia, but again, just a connection, and we knew a coach who knew of her, and I think most people thought she was going to have to stay 2 years at a junior college, and this coach let us know that she could leave after her freshman year, and so I think we got lucky there, and was able to sign her. And again, sophomore this year will come back for 3 more years, and I think will be a tremendous player for us for 3 more years.
Yeah, tremendous addition. Really, really tremendous addition. I think she won you the Oregon State game. It's almost single-handedly. I think she made 7 threes that game.
Yeah.
Just really contributed. And then, so my compliments to you of finding that diamond in the rough there in junior college. Really nice job. The last question I wanted to ask about before we open it up and let the other coaches Q&A. Can you talk a little bit about, I think you've just done such a masterful job with your staff as you transition from a associate head coach at Kansas State to Northern Colorado and then to Washington State. You've done such a great job with your staff, and Deb Patterson has been with you the kind of the whole way. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship and how she's been able to help you through the transition from assistant to head coach?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, have known Deb since Northern Illinois, and she got the job at K-State, and it was just so intriguing to just be in line in so many ways. I loved working for Jim Foster at Vanderbilt. Awesome guy, great mentor to me. But I think sometimes when you're an assistant coach, you just know when it's time to, you're butting heads sometimes, and you need to just either be your own boss or work for somebody else. And Deb was someone that let me go right alongside of her, which I think, Laurie for me is that as well. Someone in line with, faith-based, faith-driven, culture, character kind of people you want to be. Everything about that was in line. And then I got to be what I think I'm best at, which was the player development side of that. And I really got to dive into that and be that. And probably, honestly stayed too long, 18 years as an associate head coach at K-State, had some great years, had some amazing places. And I think the biggest thing about me is I'm unbelievably loyal. I where I am, I'm not looking at another job. I'm not pursuing other jobs. I probably turned down some really good opportunities because I was so invested. And I think that's a big thing in what I look for in a staff. And obviously, it's hard. It's hard. This job is hard. You can lose jobs if you have, in that situation, we built a new arena and got a new AD, and then he let Deb go. And at that point, it was like I got pushed out. It was time to go get my own job. And fortunately, landed at Northern Colorado, was able to take, Deb and Kelly Moylan and Shaylee Lenning. I mean, our whole staff almost from K-State went to Northern Colorado, and we went from, penthouse to peanuts, and loved every minute of it. It was an awesome situation for us. But not afraid of that. I mean, we're kind of grinder type people. We're gritty. We'll do more with less. And all we did was, didn't expect the budget. We knew it wasn't going to be there and just made do, and really had a great. And then obviously Laurie at some point had to retire because her body was about to give out on her, and she came on staff, and Deb came along here. Fortunately at Washington State, they let me hire another position, and she's kind of the guru. And I think that's an amazing thing to be able to have is to have kind of that older wisdom on your staff, someone that doesn't have an agenda in any way except to try to make you better and try to make your program better. And you don't have to worry a second about, them saying something to a kid that they shouldn't. There's just a million things that having someone with that kind of experience and knowledge in that position. And I think the men do it all the time. It's just in the women's game, we generally don't have that extra position to hire someone like that. So she's been a great asset on our program, personally, just to perspective. And again, I just would say no agenda other than to help make you better. And I think that's the mark of a great assistant is assistants that just, every conversation they have with the recruit, every conversation they have with the kid, they always bring it back to the head coach, and they always bring it back to, making their head coach look good. And I think I did that for Deb Patterson. I know Laurie Koehn does that every single conversation she ever has. And obviously Deb is in that same way. So that's what I look for. That's what I think is the greatest asset in an assistant coach, and crucial for you to be able to have confidence in your staff and be able to recruit at the level that you need to.
It's such a great point. And I applaud you for creating your staff that way. And I think that a lot of coaches should take note. And and consider your point. I think it's just, kudos to you. You've done a really good job of creating your staff. The last thing I want to ask about, and only because Steve Yang with the Asian Coaches Association had Pat Chun on over the summer, and he's just such a great guy in the time that this is your athletic director at Washington State, and I just talk about your relationship with your athletic director and kind of the support that you get, because it just seems from the outside looking in that he speaks so highly of you. You have nothing but great things to say about him, and you're kind of the model for that athletic AD coach relationship. You just want to just say a few words about that?
Yeah. Well, I would just tell you that I don't think I was Washington State's first choice. And again, that's a whole lesson in and of itself. I didn't pursue the job. I think we were set up to be good at Northern for a lot of years. And I think I think he has a great perspective. He was only there 6 months or 7 months before he had to hire. I was his first hire as a head coach. And I think he got right into the weeds of and understood it. Like there is something unique about Washington State. You have to be a certain kind of person, a certain kind of coach. You have to have a lot of grit to you. You have to, it's not going to be, no offense, but it's not LA. It's not glamour. And I'm good with that. I like that. You're going to have to do more with less. You're going to have really great facilities and all the money, all the things that you have to have to succeed, but you're not going to get everything you want. It's just not possible. So I think he understood that. And for whatever reason, whether he got turned down however many times, or he just didn't like the candidate, he just somehow had, I think, an understanding of they weren't the right fit. And, they kind of started over, and they gave me a call from maybe Seal Berry, just my roots with Seal Berry, and maybe a couple other coaches that had spoken highly of me, and gave me a call and came in there, and it just seemed right. And honestly, I don't think I had any intention of taking the job. I just thought I really needed to look. I think I called back that night and said, there's no way. I don't know that we can win here, this little town. I don't know. And I think when you walk in and you meet Pat Chun, he gives you a great vision of what he wants in this program. And honestly, all of us on here, go where you got a great AD, go where your boss is for you, go where your boss wants you, go where your boss validates you. And he did all of that. And I think I've seen ADs that are very businesslike and are not a coach's AD. I've seen them really make life hard for coaches, and I don't ever want to work for someone like that. I don't ever want to see that again. And so it was when you get that kind of boss, and maybe everybody sits here and goes, well, Power 5, everybody's going to be like that. And I don't really think it's like that. I think it's still pretty unusual to have that kind of relationship with the AD. And obviously his right-hand person is Ann McCoy, who I answer to. And these are people that will do anything and they can possibly do to help you and want you to succeed. And that's the way it feels in our whole athletic department. He's gone out and hired, a great football coach, an amazing baseball coach, a great men's basketball coach, a great swimming coach. I mean, he's knocked it out of the park with his hires, and all these guys have really, really fit Washington State. So it's a great feel in our athletic department and with the head coaches in particular. And I give him a lot of credit for that.
Such a great point. Really great point. And he knocked it out of the park with you too, Coach. And you guys are just really doing a great job. Coaches, like to open it up for some Q&A with Coach Ethridge. Go ahead and you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can raise your hand, or whatever you like. I do have some more stuff. I have some more video that we could discuss if we have time. Steve Yang, go ahead.
Hey, Kamie, I'm going to get this ball rolling because I've got to go and take care of some things. But I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on. Pat Chun is a really nice guy. And I actually was talking to him not too long ago. And brought up your name too, saying how great of a person you are and what the tremendous job you've done there too. So kudos to you on a great year conference. You talked about Laurie being very loyal, and that's huge, and I commend that. And Pat had a few opportunities, right, and decided, turn them down to stay at Pullman. So that's huge for loyalty there too. So congratulations to y'all. Well, my question to you is, you've done it, you've seen it, you've played it. What advice do you have for those out there that wants to kind of get to where you're at, not necessarily to your level, but just being that comfort level? Because I agree with you 100%. I think the P5s level, you get the glam and all that too. But what advice do you have for those that are trying to climb the ladder and surround themselves when they don't have control of their destiny somewhat, who they want to work with? They're not the one doing the hiring, they're the one getting hired, right? So what can you give those out there that wants to kind of get the foot in and keep moving through the ranks, I guess you can call it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really hard. I would just tell you, hiring is the hardest part of our job and my job, and I hate it. And I don't hate it in the sense of I know exactly what I want, but I don't know. I don't go to the Final Four and look around, and I don't have that gene that looks around and goes, oh, let me look for my next assistant coach. I mean, I'm not, again, that's not my nature. And so when I need it, it's usually unexpected. Someone leaves your staff and it's not like I have a list of a bunch of coaches. So, I would just say it is always kind of who you know. You need to just continue to try to make as many contacts as you possibly can. I think the Zoom industry and this kind of thing and getting your name out there and being on things like this are awesome. I think, I honestly do keep letters and resumes that come across that look the part, and people that do reach out to me. I do keep those, and I keep them in a file in case things like that happen. But I don't think there's anything easy about getting a job. I think it's unbelievably hard and unbelievably, unpredictable. I don't think as an assistant trying to get on somewhere, it's easy. And I don't think why ADs hire who they hire. I have no clue either. Like, I don't necessarily think people get jobs that should get jobs. But, again, I would say you have to be unbelievably loyal to your boss, your head coach. And I don't think it ever is a bad thing to just reach out, to write notes, to let people know, send a resume. If anything ever opens on your staff, please keep me in mind. I think those are all appropriate professional things to be able to do. And again, I think coaches, whether I'm looking or if someone calls me up and asks me for somebody, I still have that file. And I think that's something that could help you along the way.
Thank you. And I wasn't my wife's first choice too, so it's all right.
It works out okay, right?
Does she keep a file?
Dario Frias, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, you guys, Coach Ethridge, Coach Laurie, nice to see you guys again. I can't believe it's already been a year since we guys had you guys on Coach's Hang Time, and just want to congratulate you guys for a great season. But also going back to our Coach's Hang Time session, you guys threw a lot of great information to us as far as like the lunchbox cards, your class breakfasts, and your championship characters that you shared with us on our show. Things that we're hoping to implement next year with our team with post-COVID and stuff. But I'm curious to know the success that you guys had this past season. Did you guys implement any of those things culturally with your team? Was there great buy-in, or if you guys implemented some new stuff that you guys don't mind sharing to the coaches here?
Yeah, I'll have Laurie jump in and maybe the Cougar course that we did. I mean, Dario, first off, congratulations on what you've done with Hang Time. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I love getting on. It's exciting. And now hopefully soon you'll be making some money off of that thing, right?
Right,
Make a little money.
yeah, thank you.
But I do think that if nothing else, I think people need to hear that over and over. And I know this to be true. You have to have your culture right, and you have to know what you stand for when you're a head coach and when you take over a program. And if you want your kids to behave a certain way, you better communicate exactly what they should be about. And we've done a lot of things to get to where we are now, where we have 5 core values. And we're not changing that. We feel really good about that. We have buy-in on that. We have kids that if you ask them what our 5 core values are, they will tell you. They would know them because we beat it over their head. For example, I know Laurie maybe can share the screen and just do it. This year we did a whole calendar of our core values, which are every day of the week, 5 days a week. Respect is one of our core values. So it's Monday, December the 7th, and this is their respect. So it goes out every week where we put this on for them. The next day is trust. That's one of our core values. And so we give them, either, and again, they're getting this every day of the week. They're getting, or 52 weeks out of the year, they're hearing about our 5 core values. Compete is one of ours. And we come up with different sayings. And I think every week we have at least one video that goes with it. I think this one doesn't have one. Maybe this one where they can click on the accountability one, and they can listen to whatever the message is on accountability. So this hasn't been an easy thing. Laurie's just busted her tail on getting this right. And but it's just over and over and over. It's every day, every week, 5 different, something different, 52 things on trust, 52 different weeks on accountability, 52 different things on compete, and on and on and on. And this is just another example of what you want it to be. You better communicate it. And so when we aren't these things, as much as we talk about these things, we also talk about behaviors behind what this looks like. So if you're not competitive every single day in our gym, we'll say, that's not what a competitive person looks like. That's not what, you're not doing it. So we call it out when it's not there in practice or in the classroom, in the locker room, if they're not doing the right thing. So as much as you're putting it for them, you're also putting behaviors behind it, so that if they're not doing it, they're on that too. Laurie, you might have some things to add to that.
Well, sorry, this link isn't actually live, but I don't know, probably a lot of you guys saw this. It kind of went nuts on social media. It was the play last year when Sabrina scored and fell down on one end of the court, and then had to be the person that got back and stopped a fast break on the other end. And it was just a massive effort play. And so we try to, we tried to have a lot of different videos and things that really, hit on these core values. And Dario, to answer your question, I think this was Coach E's brainchild, because everything really is. But I think in doing this and having every day devoted to one of our core values, it just moved us a step further, toward getting those really solidified in our players' minds. And sometimes we wondered if they looked at these at all, but then so often something would come up and someone would reference one of these, or something would really hit a kid, and we'd get a text during that day and just say, man, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. And so I think it has been a lot of work, but I think this was a really cool idea by Coach Ethridge to just keep, just pounding in those core values and bringing them up from a lot of different angles and in a lot of different ways. So we found ourselves using a lot of Kobe Bryant material and a lot of Geno material and a lot of Nick Saban, but it's really neat though too, because our players have started to see things and send them to me and say, is this a Cougar core? Like, can we put this in the Cougar course? So I think it's just, even caused them to take a little bit more ownership with them. And so that's been great. But I really don't have anything else to add to that.
I think the other thing in that is, you know, you just, and we're year 3, we just finished year 3, and, you know, we aren't there yet. We weren't completely there yet. We don't have exactly what we need to, but it's getting closer. And for example, our kids on their own, we just found this out, that they set up accountability partners while they're at home to make sure they're doing their workouts or their conditioning workouts, or their shooting, the stuff that we've put in place for them to do while they're home. And so they've partnered up to make sure that they come back having accomplished those things. So that in and of itself is, you know, it's without us, we didn't tell them to, they're doing it on their own. And that's a big step, I think, in where we are in our program.
And coach, just to make note, I mean, it's translating on the court. Just watching a lot of your games this year, and even in your last game, your 5 core values, the competitiveness, the toughness, the accountability, you saw it in every possession. So I just wanted to, again, just a lot of respect, and being able to see that translate on the court, it's amazing. Love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dario.
Yeah, I'll just say, Coach, I agree. I know you bemoaned your depth a little bit this year, but just to give you a compliment, you know, you since taking over, you're on the trajectory that you want to be on. I mean, you want to be in that top 3 of the Pac-12, and to be honest, I think you're on that trajectory. I mean, you're doing all the right things. You've hit milestones, and you've made accomplishments. Yeah, of course you're not where you want to be, and you haven't accomplished everything you want, but you're on the way there. And I just give you so much credit and respect for what you've done, and I'm so excited that you're here to share, and I just appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot, and it's all of these, you know, that's the big thing about our core values. They're character traits. They're not really talent driven. And you never really, you know, reach the level, you never just become accountable, and you never cannot get better at it. You know, you can always have more respect for the game, or more respect for what it looks like to compete at the highest level, or you can always be better at all of these things. So, and that's really the whole nature of our program is wake up every day and get better. Wake up every day and stay hungry. Wake up every day and show the respect to what it looks like to be a great teammate. And if we maximize, you know, teaching you how to be a great teammate, and maximize what we can do with you on the basketball court, then you're going to walk away, you know, really a great professional by the time you end up leaving our program.
Yeah. Tyler Clark, you want to unmute yourself, Coach, and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Coach. I one of the things I like about what I really love is seeing these Cougar cores. It's something definitely I take into consideration, because I feel like too is, you know, we talk about culture. I also I listened to a podcast the other day on Chip Kelly he talks about environment. We all have our different ways in which we talk about culture, but one thing I liked you just brought up now is like how you want your student athletes to leave your program. You know, I'm early in the profession, but I'm definitely I've got my taste into recruiting. And it was kind of cool because my coaches offered me, like, you know, first day I went out, I went with him. After that, he's like, hey, you're on your own. And I had no, you know, I didn't know the area. The place I moved to, I did not know it very well. So I just started learning. But I wanted to ask you, because something I learned quickly is like recruiting wise, I figured out what kind of athletes I want. But, you know, when it comes to your athletes, when you started recruiting in your career, what did you notice was a big asset towards what you wanted to recruit, and why? Because our kids are changing. And, you know, when it comes to trust, like, you know, they could transfer at any moment. So I kind of wanted to ask more about the recruiting aspect of like, what do you look for in making sure that is a player that, you know, wants to see the process through rather than always looking at athleticism constantly?
Yeah. Well, again, I just think that's all dependent on your level. I think the big thing for us is sometimes you just have to you have to know what you're comfortable coaching. And I think we've come to believe that we really like, the way we want to play, we need high IQ players. And honestly, the way we want to play is we want to get people that can shoot the basketball. But at the same time, I've got a 5 player that can't shoot at all right now. And I like that big body. We've got to have that in our league. We've got to be able to at least show a little bit of a presence in the post. So we're not exactly built the way I ideally want. No one probably is, except maybe UConn and a few other schools out there. But I do think some non-negotiables need to be, the hard part for us is, like I said, we've said it before, we're going to get kids with holes in their game. We took, Crystal Ledger Walker was kind of a lazy kid. The first kid I signed, Dario knows her, like Kiana Williams. She was the biggest lazy kid you've ever seen in your life for 2.5 years. I basically told her never to come back. I didn't want to see her again for 2 years. And she kept coming back. And lastly, I just said, if you can't come back and make this conditioning time, don't. And at some point, the light bulb went on and she became Defensive Player of the Year her senior year in the Big Sky. And when those light bulbs come on, like I'm convinced, like, you can't change everybody, like but kids can grow. They can grow in competitiveness. They can grow in toughness. Obviously their skill can get better. They can learn to respect the game. I think you can grow kids into being better teammates. And if they're not willing to grow in those areas, they're not going to last in our program. If they're just a terrible human being and they want to be a terrible teammate, then they need to leave, and they will. It'll never work, because it'll be just too much conflict for them. So as long as kids, I think, have just a motor and a, growth mindset, like Colleen and these guys are talking about, if they're willing just to show up every day and stretch themselves and be uncomfortable and keep trying to get better, I really do believe, transformation can happen and does happen if people are resilient enough to stick it out and stay with it. And, we haven't had, again, I had some kids transfer a year ago. The kids that have stayed in our program 3 and 4 years, they just don't transfer. They love it. They buy into it. They want to be about it. They are our values. And not only but they represent it every single day. And we don't have to do near as much talking about that. So I do think it's a process to get your culture piece in place. And then you don't have to do near as much work as the coach to call out bad behavior. Your kids kind of do it on their own. But I don't think that's easy to get to. I mean, again, year 3, we had problems even in year 3 of kids not doing what they need to be doing. But I think that's going to happen until you get, kids further along in developing your core value. I think that's a hard question. I would tell you that if I want high motor kids, I want high energy kids, I want competitive kids. I want kids that love to play. So, if it's a chore to get up and go to work or get workout in, or that's the thing that I think is, they end up not staying if they really just don't love the game and don't want to work at it. I think that's the hardest part to coach.
And I just say that because, like, when I just finished my first year in the college game, but I was in high school, and when I was thinking college, I was thinking, recruiting, okay, I'm gonna look for skill. When I reflect back only in 1 year, I look back, I'm like, and it's just my personal preference, I would much rather take a player that is not as talented, that I know I can handle or I can be around for a whole day and I know I can coach, than a player that I can't even last 10 minutes with in a day and be talented as can be. Like, I'd much rather take happiness over just frustration and annoyance, I guess. So you answered it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's a really, thankfully I have a really mature team, but I have one kid on my team that's a toddler, like literally, I mean, these guys know her. I mean, Bella, she's, you know, but again, it's like Laurie tells me sometimes, it's like we want her to be able to read 7th grade level, but she's a toddler. I mean, she can't read 2nd grade. So you can't, and that's been hard to get it right. And I think it wouldn't be hard now to bring her in. I think at that level, it was hard to bring her in when we were in, you know, our first year or our 2nd year. And she's, you know, when so many pieces aren't in place, you know, and you're having to spend way more time on her, you know, bad behavior or her quitting or her not doing it at the level or her, you know, name a something on the court where she's the attention. That's the hard part for a coach. You gotta manage things like that to the level that you need to. But again, we've lived the worst of that. And she's obvious, you know, now all of a sudden you just see light bulbs come on and you know, we see her conditioning level and we see what she's doing on the basketball court. And you're just like, you know, it does work if you can have the patience to stick with, and the kid is receptive and wants to be good and will keep coming back and has a heart for it. But they're not going to be perfect. And I mean, I've learned that. I'm old school, man. I want to be mad at him all the time. I want to be perfect, and probably she's an exhausting teammate. I would tell you that Bella's probably an exhausting teammate for her teammates to be around. And that's a hard thing as a coach to go, when is it too much? But sometimes you have to let a kid grow, and not everybody's at the same level. And that's just, you got to figure out what you can manage and what you can't. And if the culture's good around her, you can probably put up with it a little bit more. If the culture's bad around it, you're in big trouble. Right, Laurie? Is there anything I should add to that?
Hey, Kamie, I have a question for Laurie. So Laurie, as Kamie's your head coach, what 3 characteristics would you say make kids want to come and play in Kamie's program, or the, you know, as her, the head coach?
Yeah, that's actually kind of an easy one for me to answer, just because obviously I had a chance to play for her and just feel like I've learned everything that I know about, you know, basketball skills and basketball development and culture and how to build a great team and have great team chemistry and just the gamut is just, you know, I've just been so lucky to have a chance to learn from her for pretty much the last 20 years. But I would say for sure her authenticity. You know, she's a straight shooter. So there are no mind games. You're never wondering what she's thinking. She's going to tell you exactly what she sees, and she's going to tell you the truth. And so I probably just rolled like 2 of my things into one. So that might've been a mistake, but I would say, you know, just how genuine she is with recruits throughout the recruiting process. And then I think, you know, that rolls over when they do become a part of her teams into an unbelievable relationship that's really built on trust. And so, you know, maybe the recruit wouldn't know this. I might be, you know, changing your question a little bit, but, you know, I know that one thing that players really appreciate when they play for her is, you know, she is more than willing to hash out anything with a player. I mean, her door is open. And if they've got an issue, she wants them to come talk to her, and she wants to hash it out. And she might not tell them what they want to hear. But, you know, I've just seen it time after time where a player walks out of the office with a great understanding of where she's coming from, with a great understanding of, you know, where maybe they were a little off and how they were thinking. But, you know, also she'll be vulnerable in that situation. And I think that's huge. And she'll tell the player where she thinks she's messed up. And it's not just, you know, pointing the finger and this is how you're not thinking about this right. And this is, you know, she'll actually reflect also on how she's handled situations. And I think that is, and I mean, you guys would know in today's environment and in the way players need that probably more than ever. That is just a huge characteristic that she's got that, you know, I respect so much. And I think I've just seen player after player. You know, it takes time, and some players get to that point where they have the courage to go in and talk to her and hash out issues earlier in their career. And what they find out is it just makes for an awesome relationship quicker in their career. So, you know, she encourages players to come and have hard conversations and just doesn't shy away at all from, you know, the hard truths. And obviously you would know that after probably having coached her, and just know that she's a straight shooter, and she's really stubborn about what she thinks. But at the same time, she's really honest and authentic.
She was
Is
that
that
way as
like-
a player. Yeah.
Is that like 7 things, or is that just
Oh, no,
one?
that was great. That's good. And all of it I know to be true.
I mean, and I think the other thing, you know, I think the 2 things that she's just off the charts, and in my unbiased opinion, the best in the world at, is just, you know, building a culture like we've talked about, and player development. And probably those 2 things kind of, you know, are intertwined. And just her ability to be such a demanding coach on the floor, and to hold people to a really high standard, you know, when it comes to our core values, but also, you know, to earn that trust, and to make players understand that she really, really cares about them and wants what's best for them. And I think those things, and obviously she's just as good as it gets at actual player development and skill development. So I think it's a great combination, and, you know, one that again, I've learned so much. And if I can be half the coach and half the person she is one day, I'll be doing good in life.
I had a question. Awesome job, coach. Man, she need to give you a raise after that. But not for real. It's almost fiscal month, isn't it? But hey, coach, I had quick questions. What's your ultimate goal as far as coaching in this business, in this profession? What's your if I could say your mission? It's, I know, winning a championship, or what's your purpose behind it? And then the last one would be, that was a pretty nice Magic Johnson pass, but what's another player that you knew you recognized, recognizes game? So who's that other player for you where you were like, wow, they really, you knew that they could play and you really respected their game?
Good. Well, I think first off, it's not my nature to think like I'm looking for another job or want something different. I really want our program to be better and to compete better and to grow our kids into the very best that they can be. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. I don't know what that level is. You know, you just want to make the tournament and you want to see if you can make a run. I mean, Arizona is a great example of a, you know, kind of a flawed team, and somehow they got to the finals of the national tournament. It's almost like those kinds of things don't happen anymore, but they just prove that it does. I think that's the dynamic, creating the chemistry and things like that is the magic piece, and getting your team to play the pieces, or the whole play better than your pieces. I think that's just the beauty of the sport, and I love it. And I love working with people who are about those things, our kids, our staff. So I don't have any grander views of anything. You know, you just want to succeed. You want to be the best you can be, and hope that you can compete at the highest level in our league, at least. You know, and I think the hard part for us, and Colleen knows this, like, we weren't on TV. It's not like I grew up watching women's basketball. I mean, heck, we didn't have the WNBA. We had to go overseas to play professionally. So it's not like we got to and it drives me crazy now when I get on the phone with a recruit and you go, who's your favorite player in the WNBA? And they go, oh, I don't watch the WNBA. It just almost makes you want to hang up the phone, you know,
Exactly,
that they're
yeah.
so disconnected. Or even when they go, I don't like the NBA. I think they don't play the right way. And you just want to punch them in the face for saying something like that. The very best of athletes in the world, and you've got to look down on how they play the game. It just makes no sense to me. So, you know, I wouldn't say that I had a player. I mean, you know, I watched Kim Mulkey. I competed against her 2 years of my college career. You know, I was on that 84 as an alternate. So I was at the training center with that 84 Olympic team. But again, that's kind of the first time I was in the gym with some of those players. So I think I'm much more in tune with players now. And you can, there's just a million of them. I mean, I really respect, you know, I think Sabrina's a player that you can just watch people and how they compete. And you just respect how hard people compete and how good the game has gotten. I'm just amazed at how good, you know, the WNBA is and how good offensively they are. So there's not much that, you know, I love how Gino runs his program and obviously the people in our league, Tara, I mean, everybody in our league, it's just been so refreshing to be in the pack and be around the coaches that are there. You know, and podcasts that are going on now, Zooms where you can get on and just learn something new every single day and hear people just be brilliant with in the way they communicate and how they run their programs. I mean, I just think it's a great time to be in the coaching profession. And I think it's if you're lazy and if you think you've got it figured out, then there's something wrong with you, because I think it is awesome to be able, I mean, I got the TV on over here, the play-in games are going on. It's a great time of year, man. You can watch the pros, you can watch WNBA. So I wouldn't say I have a total respect of the old time, you know, what Taurasi's doing, Sue Bird, but I just think some of the young players coming up are just phenomenal. So I just have a real high respect for, you know, people that become the very best at what they do, whether it's in the NBA or you know, heck, I can watch tennis when Nadal's on. I don't want to miss that, you know, or I'm pretty much a sports addict on watching and watching how, you know, what greatness looks like in whatever sport they're doing. I think it's awesome.
Hey, Coach Ethridge, this is Fred Williams. And I want to say if there was a WNBA back in the day when you were playing, you'd probably be a 15-year all-pro, all-star point guard pushing the ball. And then you got a shooter on the other side with you there with Laurie Koehn. I tell you what, you got a tremendous person and staff member with Laurie Koehn. She was super with me in Atlanta, a true veteran person. And, you know, like I just texted her a few minutes ago, you're very fortunate and lucky to have a person like her to be with your program. Myself, I turned off a few of the top, it had like the top 10 games going on during this college season this past year. I turned it off and watched Washington State and watched those guards get up and down the floor like you did and pushing the basketball. So you never know who's watching. And for everybody's on here looking, I'm telling you what, Coach Ethridge, if you want to get on the floor and run and push the basketball, she was the best in my books.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's neat.
And she would do anything to steal the ball from you. Anything. That would include ripping off your jersey, tripping you. But Kamie she'd want to get that ball or, you know, make that pass. And also, I do want to say, I think she's still on the call, but EJ Oak from Northeast Louisiana was something else too. So those two battled each other also, besides Kamie playing against Kim Mulkey. So
Hey,
EJ,
Kamie, I really enjoy, you know, listening to you. You know, I don't have a much question for actually Kamie because I'm coaching high school, okay? And it's a private school. It's really different. And I try to teach them things I learn. And it's that level, it's hard for me to teach. So I try to drop down all of my level, low level. I'm in bottom of my level, all right? So, and then they play different sports. So I have a lot of challenges. It's nothing like what you guys are talking about.
Right.
So that's why I haven't really asked you any questions because I have to figure it out. This level is really different. I have been coaching this level for 2 years. It's really challenging because they play 2, 3 sports, and some are 4 sports. So I have to work with everybody. So I'm trying to get back to college level, but I'm getting older. So, but anyways, Kamie, I remember her when I played against her. She was everywhere. She was short. She was constantly moving. I thought I was moving all the time, but she was even moving more than I did. What a game! I played against her team. I did watch that game. I do have a DVD. Yeah, we scored 91. You guys are 99. Yes. What a game. Yeah.
Hey, Coach.
You were one of the best. You were one of the
Oh,
best.
thank you.
From Western. I hope I didn't miss. I know I missed a lot. I got a phone call from a recruit, but the question I want to ask is, you put together a championship team, but I think that comes from putting together a championship staff. So how did you go about in building your staff and making sure, because if your staff doesn't line up with what you want, then they don't teach the same values and morals and everything that you want to teach to your team. So it all, for me, it's all in line. So what were kind of the things that you were looking for and kind of the things that stood out when you decided to put the staff together that you have?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. And I don't think, I would tell you that Laurie and I are probably the 2 people in our program that speak the most. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Laurie does most of our player development. She's in charge of it. All the coaches are there. I have a post coach as well. Camille Williams works with the post in our breakdowns. And Jace is usually with Laurie in the guard breakdown in practice settings. But I would just tell you that I'm big on trust, and you better, I don't know that I'm like everybody else, but I'm one of those coaches that I got to believe, and you've got to have. Well, let me just put it this way. I was with an assistant, Kristen Becker, a long time ago, and she made a comment that she said, the words that she said to a kid came into her office one day, and this was when she was an assistant for Deb, and said, I have something I want to tell you. And Kristen told her, you can tell me whatever you want, but just know whatever you tell me, I'm going to tell Coach Patterson. And that's hard for some assistants to understand. Like, I think and I'm not talking, something stupid, that's like, I only did 6 shots today. And I was, I'm talking about something that's going to affect a program, something that's going to affect a kid. You have no boundaries that a head coach shouldn't know. And that's hard for young assistants to really believe, to think that, because I think most assistants think, oh, I got this thing with a kid, they can tell me things, I can do this. No, you can't. You're not allowed to have any conversation that I shouldn't know about. And I mean silly stuff. I remember one time Shaylee Lenning, a kid complained about her dorm, or roommate in the dorm, and she didn't tell Coach Patterson that her roommate was a kid on the team. She didn't say anything to Coach Patterson. Well, it came back that the other kids told parent called Coach P and said, this is not working as a roommate. Well, she could have known that. She should have known that when that kid had that conversation. And it didn't seem significant, but the point is, you aren't in charge. You don't answer to the AD. You are not responsible. And so you can't have an agenda with a kid or think you've got a friendship that supersedes the head coach. I mean, every conversation that you have with a kid needs to bring back to the head coach and make the head coach look good. And so You know, I have that with Laurie Koehn. I was that for Deb Patterson and anyone else. And when you can't do that, you need to go get another job. You don't need to work for somebody because it is not your program. That's what you have to keep in mind. So I know I just talked a lot about that and I didn't, but trust is huge. And again, you know, I don't want assistants putting things in a kid's head that I don't want them to know, that I don't want them to think. And so it's got to be, you got to be in line with your head coach. You got to make sure that kids think your head coach is awesome. And that's hard sometimes because I think human nature is to make yourself look good and feel good about yourself. And in doing that, sometimes you don't lift up your head coach. Even if you're not lifting up your head coach, it comes across as that. And I think that's hard for young assistants to do. So trust is huge for me. And you got to be on board and you got to be saying the right things to kids every single day that you're with them. And I don't know if there's anything other. Got to have an unbelievable work ethic. You got to be able to get on the phone and sell your program. There's just a lot of things you got to have a great work ethic of doing whatever it takes for a program to succeed. So I don't know if I answered that. Probably a lot of head coaches on here, other people could answer that as well. Fred, you've been in those situations where you probably not had loyal assistants or, you know, seen that, and it's terrible and it's hard.
Yeah, I got rid of them real quick. That's just how that works. You know, I got rid of them real quick. The main thing is, you know, I've always been a loyal assistant coach for years, you know, back in the day at Southern Cal and with Koehn at UC Irvine and even in the pros in the WNBA. And, you know, you're right, coach. You have to take the information that you get from the student athletes and also from, you know, at my level, at the pro level, and give it back to the head coach, because that's the person who has to answer to the media and to the owners and to athletic directors sometime. But, you know, you don't want to be looking over your shoulder all the time and just wondering if you know, somebody's trying to stab your back or take your seat. Because I tell you what, the seat that Coach Ethridge is in is a huge seat. Most assistant coaches think they can step in there and do the job, and they find out they can't do that job. And once they find out, they lose their reputation, and then they fall back into the pool of trying to build themselves back up. So, yeah, Coach, just to answer your question is that, you know, there's no tolerance for anybody trying to, you know, overpower or overshadow, over, you know, making you look bad as a head coach. And I think watching your program, I've watched a lot of basketball, and I watched your program closely. I like how your program has developed. You have established, you have built something there, and you're right now at that stage where you want to maintain. And your maintain status is that you want to be the elite in the Pac-12 and make things happen and going forward. And once you get there, it's going to stay there, because I've seen how you put that program together tremendously. And like I said, I watched 3 or 4 of your games, maybe 5 games this season. And I actually demonstrated to some of my guards on what you should do with the basketball. And you do a great job with your program. And Laurie is a great assistant. You see a lot of things. And that's the most I ever heard Laurie talk today. I mean, she wouldn't talk. Laurie wouldn't talk at all back in the past, but now seeing her, and I send her a text, I'm very proud to see her on the screen and being, you know, associated with women's basketball and also with your program. And, you know, just great things are going to happen for you. I know that for sure. That's why I'm on this today, because I believe in great people, and you're one of those great people as a coach.
Thank you. I'm telling you, Laurie Koehn, she's the best assistant in the country. Probably works harder than anybody. Probably up at the office at 4:30 or 4:45 or 5 every day, and in the gym, making workouts, doing videos. It's unbelievable. So work ethic, be great on the computer, learn Photoshop and be able to do graphics, because there's just no limit to what you need to learn in order to help your program. So
Kamie, did Laurie put that calendar together?
yeah.
Okay. And I want to ask a question about that calendar. They have a different saying or scenario every week about every trait or every day? You said 52 weeks, so is it
It's five core values that are repeated. So respect is one of our core values, compete, trust, toughness, and accountability. So for 52 weeks on respect, there's some saying about respect.
Okay.
52 weeks, and then some
52
saying and
sayings.
different.
Okay.
Different, yeah.
And then when you give it to them on the calendar, do you guys spend time, as a group going over it, or, just
No,
briefly mention it?
we really haven't, other than, generally every week, they go out. First off, the first thing that we did was we put it in a paper form too,
Mhm.
and in a spiral, but it was only, how many months did we do that first time, Laurie? 3 months?
Yeah, well, Coach Ethridge decided she wanted this calendar done in July, late July, and to give the whole team the whole year when they start school in August. So 3 weeks to get the whole no, I'm just joking. But so what I did is I think I got enough done maybe through middle of November, just in about a month's time. It's kind of all I did all day, but and so we actually made that one a spiral, that can sit on your desk and flip the page every day. And then on the back side of each one, we had a little journaling area so they could maybe write down their thoughts about that core value and about that quote or that video each day. And our goal, the end goal. So right now, I think this was week, I want to say 39. So we're about 12 weeks out or 13 weeks out from being finished with the whole thing. But when school starts this coming year in August, the idea would be to hand them an entire hard copy spiral calendar. The catch is that every week I need to send them the PDF in an email because there's live links. So the hard copy, they can look at it, but there's a lot of videos or a lot of little motivational speakers and things like that, like 2-minute clips that we want them to watch. And so each week I'll still send them the PDF for that week so that they've got the hard copy, but instead of having to type in the link, they just click the live link. It takes them straight to the video and they can see it that way. So we'll still send it electronically every week, but the idea right now I guess the point is right now we're all electronic. We just send it to them each week as a PDF. The goal is, by the time our team comes to school for the fall semester, we give them the calendar for the whole year. And then we also send it electronically each week.
So you're working on getting 52 more sayings. Is that what you're saying, Laurie?
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for Coach Ethridge, and this is a home visit question for you. What makes you so unique?
Yeah, I don't know that's a good. I mean, I'm not sure I am. I'm not sure. I think that's the hard part. And home visits are again, I think we don't do it near as good as we need to. I think there are people out there that have unbelievable graphics. They have UCLA probably should do a presentation on things that they can take in. And I think, so I'm not exactly sure we look the part, I'm not sure we're going to come across as the most polished or the most creative or, and that's part of it. Like this whole presentation is, you need a little bit of that. You need to have a plan. You need to, if we're following a Pac-12 school and they do have a presentation and it is electronic or it is, heck, I remember Texas A&M, didn't they used to take in cardboards and all this stuff? Sorry, that dog has a little cough going on. But so I do think there's parts of, you have to play the part of coming across in a certain way, but it's like recruiting. We're never going to out athlete USC. We're never going to recruit more athletes than USC does, or probably even UCLA. We're not going to get as many All-Americans as as Oregon. So you got to figure out if we can't beat them at their own game, then you better be different, and different is okay. And so that's the same idea. I think in some right now, we just don't have the staff or the personnel that is cutting edge on creating a great presentation. And we're fixing that. Our athletic department's really making a big push for that, whether it's, drone and things that you can send people and links. There's a lot of things that we have done this year that was not in place before, COVID. I think everybody's having to do virtual tours, and we're all trying to figure out how to put your best foot forward. But, I think the bigger thing for us is, we just got to build a relationship early in recruiting. We got to make connections on who we are. And again, I don't think I'm going to be the most polished coach coming in there, but I don't have to compete against every coach. I just have to be who I am. And I have to make these kids believe in who we are and what we can do for them, and that the opportunity here can get them to wherever they want to go. So, but I think the only thing I can be is real authentic and trust and believe that we have people in place here that can really develop athletes and take them to where they want to go. And I do believe we have that with the coaching staff we have, with the strength coach that we have. The people that have their hands on their daughters on a day-to-day basis are really as good as it gets. And that's what we sell.
And you just gave me my answer, because your honesty, what makes you so unique. I'm signing right now. I'm signing.
Yeah, Kamie, I think that you're just so organic and genuine that, it starts off the relationship building real quickly and solidly. And Laurie, I got to know you when I spent that weekend with your team when you guys came to LA, and I just thought it was just great chemistry. And so keep it up.
I'll second that and agree, coaches. You guys are authenticity and being organic and honest is Fred nailed it. Fred nailed it. Coach, there is a question in the chat from Kevin Weigand. He says, in recruiting, suppose you are interested in a particular player, but notice that the parent of the player can be difficult to deal with. Will this impact your decision to recruit the player?
I can honestly tell you, I'm trying to think of how many parents I've talked to in the 7 years I've been a head coach. Laurie, can you remember? It's less than 3. I just don't talk to parents. I mean, I call them when something's going on injury wise, or if I'm worried about a kid in some situation, I reach out to parents. I let them know. I stay in touch with them that way. But and I'm trying to think, have we had any real difficult ones? Akila, I had a kid transferred.
Yep.
I
think that's a perfect story and how you handled that. Like,
yeah,
if you're willing to tell it.
It was the first year at Northern, our first recruiting class that we signed. And once again, all of them left. We signed 5 and they all left. So that just tells you they weren't good fits. So that just tells you, you better know what you're getting. But I signed a kid out of California, and the kid called me in December. What was it? December 29th. I said I would never forget it, and told me that they quit, that he let his daughter quit, and that he didn't like the coach.
Quit her high school team. Quit her high school team.
Quit her high school team. They didn't like how they was playing her, blah, blah, blah. And I basically said, I don't think that's a good decision. And let me just tell you, it's December 29th, and I'm telling you, you shouldn't do this, because I have a feeling you're not going to like what I do in a year from now. And if you let her quit now, chances are you're going to quit when all that happens. And sure enough, a year into her, April, whatever, that's how we got Crystal Ledger Walker. She quit in March of that year. And we were able to we had a scholarship available for Crystal, who had come across our on video, and we were able to pursue her and sign her. So that's the blessing of it, but I think that's the reality. If kids are quitting in high school, if they're quitting a lot of club teams, believe me, they're not going to change when they get to you. They're going to quit on you and move to the next. And we're seeing that in the portal like crazy. So I don't remember the question. I don't talk to parents. I haven't had much of that. And it's not, I'm not saying that's, I won't. I know that there'll be parents that are super involved and they'll want to talk about that, but we're real when we talk to our team. I mean, I have a little sarcasm to me. I maybe that hadn't come out, but I'll be very sarcastic with the team and I'll say things like, I don't really care what your mommy thinks. I don't care what your daddy thinks. I don't care if they, and we can get kind of sarcastic and I'll even do stupid things like, wah, I'm sorry, I'll be stupid and playful and it's almost comical, but it has a message to it. And I'm not saying that's the best way to approach it, but I just think it just sends a message of, this is us. This is what we do every day. It's just us and no one else is here. What goes on here, protect our circle, be about our team. I'm going to play the best players. Go prove yourself. Go be one of the best players. And I haven't had that. I know other coaches will, and I'm not saying that's not a badge of honor. It's just in 7 years, I haven't had very many calls from parents at all for that. I think I had one drunken call from a mom when her daughter didn't get an award after the season. And I don't think she even remembers it today, and I love her to death, but she was upset about that. So awards are big to kids. And, if you need to get them awards, you got to do that sometimes, I think.
Coach, the only other question I have for you, and then we'll let you guys go. We've already stayed over here, but Colleen tells me that you are the most competitive player that she's ever coached. So as the most competitive player that Colleen has ever coached, that is up there. Do you think that competitiveness can be developed once you get them, or do you think they either have it or they don't?
I absolutely think you can grow competitiveness. Yes. I mean, you're just going to, if you stick something out that is this hard emotionally and mentally and physically and socially, if you stick this out and you have to push yourself physically and get in shape and push yourself to limits, and there's just no question you will. Now, it's true, like the first couple of years at Northern, we could stop at any moment and say, what's the score? And no one would know the score because they didn't care about the score. They just wanted to get through the drill. Bella's like that. She has no clue what's going on. She just is hoping that she doesn't get sent to the bike, to do a punishment ride on the bike. So they're all different levels of that, but there's just no question. If you last in most programs, you will be a more competitive person. Laurie, you can talk more about that maybe.
Well, I just think I've watched player after player kind of learn and take on. I mean, as competitive as Coach Ethridge was as a player, and obviously I didn't get a chance to see her play, and she acts like there's no film. So if anyone has some, send it my way. I'd love to watch. But as competitive as she was as a player, I think she's probably just as competitive as a coach. And I've watched players and the kid she talked about before, Kiana Williams, that was just a slug for our first 2 years and that she tried to run off. I mean, that kid learned how to compete, and she ended up being our toughest competitor on that team. A 5'8" kid that was guarding whoever was the best player, could guard a 6'2" kid, could guard a 6'3" kid, just tough and competitive as they come. And I exactly how it happens, I don't know that I know that answer, but I can say that I've had the awesome opportunity of witnessing, player after player in Coach Etheridge's program and in her gym day after day learn how to compete. And I think we do identify certain behaviors, like that was a perfect example. Know the score. Always, if you don't know the score, you can't possibly be competing. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but without a doubt, we do believe that can be grown. And again, it probably just comes down to how demanding she is and how competitive she is, and it rubs off on players. And I think a lot of her players take on her personality in that regard.
I do think that's a true, the statement of
warmed up, but he is looking.
I think it's crucial that you constantly, I know people always get into always be positive and say the positive things, but I still believe you got to show what you're not doing. Like we stop a lot of times, like you're faking it. You're not trying. That's not even close. That's not it. Like those are things happening, and that may not be your style. Maybe there's other people are like, you got to encourage it out of them. But I think, it's like we say all the time, it's not like you drift toward excellence. You don't drift toward excellence. You drift toward mediocrity. So if you're not on edge, you're not competing at the level. So, it is a constant in our gym of trying to, again, as much as, yes, that's it. It says, we're also saying, do it again. That's not it. Sub her. That's not it. No, that's not it. Whatever that might be. And I think, you learn what playing hard is, or you learn what competing is, or you hate it so much you don't stick around. I just think that's the reality. You either, I'm not trying to say that we will always change everybody. I don't believe that. I don't think coaches can, we're really not those coaches that think, oh, we'll get them and we'll fix them. I don't believe that at all. But if they're about getting better and they want to commit to the work that it takes, I think that can be grown. Just like leadership can be grown, just like toughness can be grown, and that's the beauty of, I think, our core values is they're all, work in progress. You can always get better at them. So we can take a lot of pride in getting better at those things as we go forward.
That's a great answer, Coach, and great example too of Kiana Williams there on your team. Really awesome. You answered that really well, both coaches.
I think the interesting one that I would tell you, like Bobby Buckets, like I love her and I wish I'd had her for 4 or 5 years, and she thought she was a great competitor. It's an amazing thing, like what you learn. But then what you do, it's just yeah. And she's a pro right now. And I'm sure she's playing on both ends of the ball now when she has to, or she gets cut. But it's not like again, in year 2, we couldn't get kids to compete the way we needed to, but we had to live with what was in our gym. And that's the hard part. I think that's the hardest part for demanding coaches. And you guys that are new coaches, is that you got to live with just, no, it's not where we want it to be. But we got to keep getting better at all these areas that we want. And now we're at a point where we have pretty good buy-in, and we don't have to be the bad cop, I think, every single day in the gym.
Yep. Great point. Your team this year, man, they had grit and they competed. That's for sure. That is for sure. You guys are doing such a great job. Well, if there aren't any other questions, coaches, we'll let Coach Ethridge and Laurie Koehn go. You guys, thank you so much. We're gonna. We can just stay on and chat. Colleen and I like to just kind of leave it open, and whoever wants to stay on is welcome, just to kind of chat and talk about our respective programs and what's going on in our lives. But don't feel like you have to stay. I'm glad to see Fred on. I haven't talked to haven't seen Fred in a while. He was a former presenter on the Growth Mindset Coaches Zoom. So I'm so pleased he made it on. But coaches, thanks everyone for coming on.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
Kamie.
shut off the recording now.